Okay, everybody, welcome back to A Plus Parents. And I have to tell you, I get to meet so many of the people that come on the show with us. And Sophie is somebody that I've got to really just meet in person, where we do, like Zoom in person kind of thing, for that we've got to meet face to face this way. But we've been in communication for a while, and our young people have been doing our math courses. And but to get to find out more about who people are and what they're up to, you're going to be so delighted as you're listening to get to meet Sophie today. And I've been practicing her last name. So Sophie Agbonkhese, how did I do? Does that sound good?
That's pretty good. Yeah.
That's pretty good. Agbonkhese. Okay. So first of all, she's a mom. She's a homeschool mom. She's a wife. But now, are you ready? She is a writer. She has 4 children. She's a business owner. And I love this. She's a recovering overachiever. So it's always good. I always tell people I'm a recovering teacher because I left the public school system. So you'll have to tell us more about what it's like to be a recovering overachiever who once in a while relapses, right? Sophie's the founder of My Cup Runs Over, and she'll have a chance to tell us more about what that is, how, why she created it. But it's a site that's really dedicated to helping, just check in with yourself. Anybody busy out there? And if you say no, you're probably not the person that should be listening to this anyway. This is for busy people, right? Because we're up to things. But she created this site, and it's dedicated really to help busy women simplify and enrich their lives, their homes, and their homeschool. So when she's not writing or debugging websites, Sophie likes to spend her time reading, walking, and as she says, she's just generally trying to be able to survive the pandemonium that's going on in her home. Now, what's really cool is that Sophie lives in Canada. So it'll be interesting for most people that, that tune in are in the US, but now you get to hear the perspective from Canada and what homeschooling is like in Canada as well. And what you're going to find out is that we're all still doing the same thing. We're empowering our kids to be amazing, and we love our kids, and we all get to be in this together. She lives in southwestern British Columbia with her husband, Ben, and their kids. So Sophie, welcome. I'm just so excited to have you here. This is great.
Thank you so much. That was a great introduction.
Oh, well, glad to do that. So kind of tell us a little bit about just about kind of who you are, like, so I got to say who you are as I've got to know you, but how would you introduce yourselves to people? Who would you say who you are and what you do?
I think you did a pretty good job. I am all of those things. I never know what to start with. Usually you lead with, I'm a mom to 4 kids, because I feel like that kind of sums it up. So I am unfortunately kind of crazy busy, just trying to keep up with them. Like you said, I'm a wife to Ben. We've been married for 14 years, I think. You kind of lose track in there. He was my college sweetheart, and we got married right after we graduated. And yeah, I'm a business person. I kind of call myself a serial entrepreneur because Ben and we went to business school together. We graduated, we just started starting businesses, and we've sort of like cycled through a bunch of businesses through then. I had a sustainability consulting business up until about 9 years ago when we started homeschooling, and I pulled back from that and dedicated myself to homeschooling and having more kids for a bit, but I couldn't really stay away from also working and doing all the things that I love to do and having sort of an impact beyond my home. I think it's important that we have that, I recognize that the impact I'm having in my home is huge and meaningful and is going to have lasting repercussions, but I also feel like I have to have an impact outside of my home. So that's what I've been working on for the past 4 or 5 years. I'm writing books. Right now I've written a couple of novels. I'm in the process of trying to sell one of them and or get an agent who will sell it for me. I run the website, like you said. I've been working with Joyful Life magazine this year, just helping them as well. And that's a Christian magazine and website for women. So I've been busy, like you said, I'm busy.
That's great. Well, you're the perfect person to run your website then, because it really is for busy women.
It is. I'm always writing to myself. I'm always like, I need this. This is what I need to hear. So I just keep saying it, and eventually maybe it'll sink in.
Oh, I love it. That's so great. And I think for people listening, our listeners are kind of all across the board when it comes to homeschooling. So we've got some senior veteran homeschool moms, people like yourself that you've been doing this for years. And then we've got people that are considering homeschooling and they're kind of trying to figure out, is this the right thing to do? And then we've got people that are brand new at it. And I love that you have found the way to not only be someone who is passionate about homeschooling and do what you're doing for your family, but you're still doing things for yourself. And you're not, you're not taking that entrepreneurial spirit and saying, you know what, I'm going to put that over here in this box and I'll come back to it in 20 years and then take it out, dust it off. And it's like, oh, what happened, right? You're living life. And for me, I think that's the greatest gift we can give our kids, is that our kids can see that we still get to, do the things that are passionate, that our own passion projects, and at the same time be successful. Because what better way to model success than to be successful ourselves and let our kids know it's okay to do things out there and be able to have a life and have a family and still make a difference in the world. So I love that. So here you are, a business person, you and Ben meet in college, you in business school. And how did you end up homeschooling? So how did that happen?
So I think it's probably kind of always been on my mind. Even since I was a kid. It's a funny story, actually. This is, one of those things that you look back on 20 years later and you're like, oh, that thing really impacted me, but you didn't necessarily realize it at the time. But I didn't like a lot of my teachers growing up. I just didn't really connect with them. But I had one teacher named Larry. And actually, you remind me so much of Larry.
Oh, nice.
He's from Tennessee, actually. No, I'm so sorry. He was from Kentucky.
Kentucky. Well, they still
similar area.
You got a little bit of that southern drawl either way. So there you go. Right?
Yes, you can see my Canadian side coming out.
Oh, that's great.
Anyway, he taught me for grade 4 and 5, and he was just the best teacher in the world. I won't go on and on about how great he is, but I could. I'm still in contact with him now, 20 years later. We talk all the time. We email, we follow each other on YouTube, and we call on our birthdays. But he homeschooled his 4 kids. Well, his wife, primarily did the homeschooling, but that always stuck with me, that, the one teacher that I really connected with didn't put his kids in school.
Wow.
And his kids all went on to, follow their passions. They became artists. There's a musician, there's a dancer. So, they all went on and did all these creative things. And I just thought, that really stuck with me. And I thought, if that's the way that he went, that just meant something. So it's funny, I know a lot of people who homeschool, they were stay-at-home parents when their kids were little. And I never did that. I had my first daughter, I was working. The first 2 were 18 months apart. And then when the second one was 4 months old, we moved to Boston, where I did, we moved to Boston. I did my master's degree there with, a 2-year-old and a 6-month-old. And so I was really into my career and doing that sort of stuff. And I never thought I could stay home with my kids. I was I love my kids, but I don't think I could stay home with them. I'm just not that kind of a mom. And then as my older daughter approached 5, I actually just sort of changed my stance on that. And I was actually, I just really want to be home with my kids. I was feeling really stretched. I was okay, I only see them in the morning and we're rushing to get out the door, get them to daycare. And everyone's kind of stressed. And then I see them at night and we're rushing to feed them and get them into bed. And so it's kind of the 2 worst times of the day, right? And all of our good hours were spent away from each other with other people. And I'm seeing these kids and I'm they're growing up so fast. They're 3 and 5. Their whole lives are flashing before my eyes. And I was I have to change this. I need to be with these people, as much as I can possibly be with them. So I gave notice to the people I was working with, and my daughter turned 5, and right away I just, left work. I did keep consulting, but just on a very minor basis at that point. And we celebrated our first month of homeschooling by taking a trip across Canada, which was crazy. I don't know if you've ever driven across Canada. You haven't driven across Canada. Maybe you've driven across the US. It's crazy.
I have to say I haven't done that yet.
It's crazy with 2 little kids.
Right.
It was the wrong thing to do, but we had some good times. And they got to meet my family that's all over the place. So it was kind of just, it had always been sort of niggling at me that I might want to do this. And I think, there was one other factor. I didn't really know any moms who were homeschooling. I didn't know a lot of moms at that point because I was kind of a young mom, and I didn't really have any young mom friends at that
Right.
point. But there was this family at our church, and they were older. Their kids were like teenagers, and they were homeschooled, and they were just the most amazing family that I had ever met. And I loved their kids, and their kids just blew me away. And I kind of looked at them and I thought, these kids are so different from other kids. And in my naive young brain, I was like, maybe if I homeschool, my kids will be like that too.
Aw.
And you know what? Like, to be honest, I say now it was my naive young brain, but it's true. I mean, my kids are like that. We're very close with that family still.
Right.
The older daughter teaches my kids singing. The mom teaches my kids piano. And my kids want to be like those people. Like, those are their role models. So
Right.
in some senses, it really did work out.
Oh, that's so great.
But I
Well,
feel
you
like
know,
my
it's
thought process was simplified.
right. Well, you know, and I hear two things. So I hear the naive young mom, right? But I also hear somebody that understands, you know, really the entrepreneurial skill set that you have there,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Because that's there, and knowing that you don't have to do it the way that you know that people say this is the way it's supposed to look, right? You can say, you know what, maybe there is another way, and you had
Mhm.
that thought in the back of your mind. Thank you, Larry, by the way. So
Yes.
but you know, you have that in the back of your mind, like maybe there is something else possible, and you were willing to do what it was to make it happen and make it work. And you know, and now
Mhm.
you look back now and it's like, what are you doing now? Well, now you're actually empowering other people that might be in that same situation you were in, and they're like,
Mhm.
they're trying to figure out, you know, it's funny, you hear sometimes where, and I think people even listening might be in that same place that you were in, like, I don't know if I want to be home with my kids all day long. And all of a sudden there's this shift, and you go from not thinking about what that might look like to being like, no, I really do want to do that. And I love what you said, that, you know, the best hours of the day would have been the time of the day that you wouldn't have been with your children,
Mhm.
where those best hours of your day now are the times that you can be with them. And
Yeah.
I think that's amazing. So, you know, when you start to look now and you see, like, we're working with moms and having all the resources that you have for them, one thing I can tell is that you're very, very, very intentional
Yes.
about what you do, right?
Yes.
So what would you say, like, for, you know, what would you say for other parents out there and other people that are already homeschooling or considering homeschooling? What would you say would be uh, what would be about helping kids pursue their passions? What would be something you could tell people that, you know, how do you be intentional about that?
Mhm. Well, I think you've got me pegged pretty quickly there. Um, so I'm an Enneagram 1. I don't know if you're into Enneagram, but I think like it kind of sums me up so well.
Right.
Like it basically means that my whole life is just driven by purpose. Everything has to have a purpose. And I have to be pursuing that purpose passionately all the time, trying to have
Right.
positive change in whatever area it is. And it doesn't mean like it's always that one purpose. It could be, you know, a purpose for this and a purpose for that, but everything has to be intentional and purpose driven. Otherwise, like I can't get excited about it. I can't even really make myself motivated to do something if I don't feel there's like a greater purpose to it. Which
Mm,
is, you know, like it's a positive and it's a negative. Um, but that's how I'm wired. And I kind of think my kids are probably wired similarly to me. Not exactly the same, but I think they kind of feel the same way about that. And, you know, I look at people and like adults and kids, all of us, whether we are purpose driven or not, we've all been given unique gifts and talents. And I actually see it as like our responsibility as people to discover what those are and then to use them. Like those are gifts. We're supposed to use our gifts, right?
right.
And I think as a parent, like it's a really important part of my role to help my kids figure out like to find the space to explore their passions and figure out what is their purpose and how might they turn that into like a career or a ministry or hobbies or anything else they might want to do. And like you said, I'm not really I am very entrepreneurial. I'm never in a box. I'm always
Mm,
thinking, you know, like working from home has always been normal to me, working funny hours, you know, doing a little bit of this and a little bit of that. As long as we're sort of getting by, I'm fine.
right.
You know, I think it's really important that we figure out what gifts we have and how we can use them to make a positive impact in the world, whether we're kids or adults. So really like in my homeschool, that's my biggest goal is just like making space to figure that out with my kids.
It's so great. Well, I have to say, when you use the word purpose, right? I think that one thing that every single parent that I've ever met, we all have something in common. And that purpose is that we want our kids to have an amazing life. I've never
Mhm.
met a parent that's come to me and said, oh yeah, well, my purpose is that my kids, that their life is worse than mine. No, we don't want that. We want our kids to have it, have it better than we've had it ourselves, and how we can do that. And it's great because there's that opportunity during the day when you're home and you can actually see where those passions might come from, and to find out what it is that people, that they really are interested in. I've interviewed a lot of business people over the last few years, and I was putting this course together, at which I think you have seen our college and career readiness course, right? And when I was putting the course together, one of the things that helped me guide that course was I interviewed very successful business people.
Mm.
And they were all different, and they all had a different background. Some went to college, some didn't go to college. Some were from the US, some weren't from the US. And so all different. And they had one thing in common. And it was really interesting. But the thing they all had in common was that they did what they loved to do.